So what if the fastest way to generate net new assets isn't in finding more prospective clients, but actually unlocking the untapped potential already sitting inside your existing client community? Most financial advisors focus their growth efforts on acquisition, but the lowest hanging fruit and most sustainable growth also comes from conversion. Transforming satisfied clients into enthusiastic advocates, and minimizing attrition by creating experiences clients can't wait to share with others. Welcome to the Always On podcast. I'm your host, Duncan MacPherson. And on this podcast, our objective is to enable financial advisors to always be working on their business and on themselves. And to that end, on this episode, I'm joined by Terry Gronbeck-Jones. He is one of Pareto Systems' most tenured and respected practice management coaches, in high demand and always receiving high praise. For decades, Terry has helped financial advisors strengthen client relationships, improve referral systems that generate introductions, and build practices that grow through trust rather than chance. Together today, we explore the mystery of the AA client. Those are loyal, high-value clients who still haven't become advocates and introduced you to others. We discuss how to create more memorable client experiences, develop a professional introduction process, strengthen strategic partnerships, and ultimately position referrals as a value-added service you're providing rather than a favor you're requesting of someone. If you are looking to generate more net new assets by deepening the relationships you already have, this conversation will give you a practical framework to take action. Net new assets has to be one of the most important key performance indicators for a financial professional when it comes to growth. And in today's conversation, I want to break it down and frame it actually around acquisition, conversion, and attrition. My guest is one of the most respected practice management and business development coaches in the financial services space. Some of Pareto Systems' most substantial and complex clients work with Terry. A testament to his value and impact is the longevity of the relationships. These teams retain Terry for years. He's also a friend of mine. I think Terry, we're closer to knowing each other to 40 years than 30.
Crazy.
Yeah. So everybody, welcome the one and the only Terry Gronbeck-Jones.
It's great to be back. Thank you, Duncan.
Terry, I went on to AI after our last chat about referrals. And I just asked, I said, how many books are there on referrals?
Wow.
Hundreds. And what really amazed me is there's close to 50 that have a specific focus on the financial advisor. And I thought to myself, is it really that complicated? Like, does another book need to be written on referrals? And what I want to accomplish out of the gate here is not to oversimplify, but to demystify. From my perspective, if somebody said, what's the one key point about referrals? It's the difference between positioning and pitching. Don't pitch it as a favor you're asking of the client. Position it as a service you're providing for a client. So let's start there and let's peel it back, because I know you're, you could do a masterclass on this.
Well, that's kind. Now, you and I were talking, and I said, we should do a podcast sometime on the mystery of the AA, why your best clients don't refer. And I said, because trust me, it's a really hot topic with the clients I work with. For anybody that's familiar with Pareto or that's read one of Duncan's books, our classification system has a AAA model. The first A for revenue or assets, second A for attitude, third A for advocacy. Now, if you have the first two, revenue and attitude, you have a pretty great thing there. If you have the third A, you've got advocacies. You've arrived. That's somebody that's going to kick out a referral, hopefully, once or twice a year, maybe, statistically anyway. But what's really interesting is the double A, which is somebody that has the revenue and a great attitude. And I always stress with my clients, that don't fudge it when it comes to awarding the A for attitude. If this person really does have a great attitude in every single way, not half the attributes, but no, they think you walk on water, give them that second A. And then we have the confidence of knowing that this person has all the revenue to make, your top 20%, fantastic attitude. So what's the mystery of the double A? If all that's in place, why isn't that person introducing us to others? And then I'll stop talking and I'll say to the client, I'll say, so what do you think it is? And there'll be like a sort of a blank look, and they'll say, well, I don't know, Terry, that's kind of why we hired you in Pareto, which is sort of funny. But what is it? And today I wanted to talk about that because typically it's one of three things. And that double A, by the way, I'm reminded of a physics class in grade 9, which I wasn't very good at, by the way, but I do remember the visual of the potential, the gravitational potential energy of the boulder on top of an incline. See, I was paying attention, Mr. Buckner, sort of. And all that potential, that to me, that's a double A. Like, how close can you be? So when I do present on this, when I work with clients, a lot of the Pareto Systems program is peeling back the layers on that mystery, because there's nothing easier than increasing production than working with somebody that already has those other pieces in place, the revenue and the attitude. Meaning, it's way harder to go out and start all over again with somebody brand new. And don't do that if you haven't solved the mystery of the double A first. So I just wanted to start there, Duncan, in terms of how, and maybe they don't like your tie. That maybe that's a mystery of the double A that we just don't know about. Typically not, though. It's things like service. And I don't mean not providing decent service. I mean not providing fantastic service, and we'll talk about that. The lack of a dedicated introduction process. It does not come from a place of neediness. It comes from a place of stewardship. And the third one, and the biggest one of all, in my opinion, is there's just a lack of awareness of what happens when you bring somebody new on. But I just want to start there, Duncan, and I want to go to the first point, which is service. I mean, how often are you talking to advisors in your travels, Duncan, where somebody's crowing about their service and you ask them to start describing it, and it's pretty much a laundry list of everything you would expect from paying somebody $50,000 to $100,000 a year. And quite frankly, there's nothing particularly memorable about it. This is kind of a gross simplification, but a lot of people think just doing all the stuff that a high-end financial advisor does at a family office is great service, and that's going to get you referred.
Okay, great kickstart there. Let's drill into that. First of all, your point about momentum. I mean, one of our core mantras is, before you go out and try to convince anybody new to become a client, just work a little better with the people who are already convinced. There's less friction, there's more momentum, and the probability that they have trust. I do like what you're saying, the lack of clarity, the lack of awareness. It just doesn't occur to them, or it's a little clunky. They're not sure what to do. Do I get involved? My friend has just opened up, bared his soul about he's disillusioned with his current advisor. Do I really want to go there? Do I want to get involved? If the advisor will remove the mystery around what happens when an introduction is made, who to introduce, how to actually make an introduction with a process, the advisory team is going to become more referable. And your point about service, deserving the referral to deserve, that impacts fee worthiness, where clients start to focus more on why you're compensated, not how much you're compensated. That improves referability. I feel like I'm doing someone a disservice by not sharing this because I'm so bought in. So let's organize that and let's make this process driven. And you're right also about the AAA. Like AA, great client. Advocacy is an extension on an attitudinal quality, but there's a very delicate bridge to navigate to get there, and that's where the positioning comes in. So, Terry, let's unpack all this. Let's get into some actionables.
If you're like most advisors, you're constantly balancing two priorities: growth and consistency. That's why we built the Turnkey Advisor membership, a community of like-minded advisors who understand the importance of working on the business, not just in it. Membership includes proven strategies for growing, teaming, scaling, or exiting, with full resources and support, including access to Pareto Academy, things once only available to our private coaching clients. If you're serious about bringing structure and stability to your business, this is where consistent results are achieved. Learn more at paretosystems.com/turnkey.
Okay, so service. I mean, and one of the truisms I see over and over in this business for years and years and years now, I just keep being reminded of it again and again, is the little things are the big things. And I'm talking like the little things, the things that people actually talk about, and it's not your last review meeting. Nobody's out there talking about your last review meeting. It's funny, I was hammering a team on this the other day, or nagging, whatever you want to call it, and we were beefing up their service matrix. And some teams, I just love some teams. You'll tell them something, and they're just sitting there, like, listening intently, and then you'll get back together with them 2 weeks, and you're like, hey, Terry, I tried what you said. This is like 2 weeks later after the concept was introduced, and it's like, and it worked, and that's my favorite kind of client. They don't just do what I say and don't overthink it, and we teach proven best practices. It's not really on trial, as we used to say, Duncan. But anyway, one of those scenarios I was going on about having a drink fridge at the office, so that when your client shows up for review meetings, you've got their drink of choice. And somebody says, "Oh yeah, well we got like a really nice coffee maker with caffeine." That's not what I'm talking about, and that's really cool. I want you to know what your client drinks, so that when they get into the office, you can say, "Hey, you like green tea, don't you? Can I get you one of those?" It's like, "Yeah, I do." And if you ever had somebody demonstrate active listening in terms of your taste like that, it's very powerful force. So it's not like, can I get you a coffee or something? No matter how nice the coffee is, it's remembering and having a drink fizz. So this team that I was talking about the service matrix with comes back and he said, Terry, I tried what you said. I remember that one of my clients likes Diet Cherry Coke, of all things. Anyway, but I had one ready for her. And she said, I've never seen her light up more than when I said, listen, hey, you like Diet Cherry Coke, can I get you one? She couldn't believe it, that I had it, first of all, and then I went and got it for it. So, and he's just sort of shaking his head, could it be this simple? And I said, not only could it be that simple, I bet you she'll tell somebody about it. Because that's the little things are the big things sort of methodology, and the powerful nature of those things is people brag about it when they're treated well. Now, why would they brag about it? Because it hardly ever happens. It hardly ever happens. And if it happened all the time, those demonstrations of active listening and service, I mean, it wouldn't be memorable, would it? But it is memorable because it hardly ever happens. So the more you can do that, understand that what you do is super important. Don't get me wrong. It's valuable stuff. But if you can go above and beyond that for the AAAs and AAs of the world, and have a drink fridge with Diet Cherry Coke and so forth, and all the other things that go into a service matrix. Now, we could talk about service matrix for a couple of hours, if not longer, Duncan, but that's a big one. Just understanding the little things are the big things. And another one is the relationship calls. And Duncan, how many times we talked about this and taught this over the years? Nothing's changed. In fact, with the advent of AI, I think there's even more importance to the little things are the big things, because everybody gets faked out about new technology and they forget what makes you referable. AI is going to make you fabulously efficient behind the scenes, and that's amazing. So what are you going to do with all that freed up time? Well, pour it into Cherry Cokes is kind of what I'm saying here. And you can't help but miss.
I could be wrong on this, but I think the first time I heard of Cherry Coke was Warren Buffett. I think that was his drink of choice as well. And it popped into my head, but lesser known, but just as important to Warren Buffett was Charlie Munger, who I think just passed away.
No, no way.
And he had a saying, show me the incentive, I will show you the outcome. And if you think about the incentive, like if I'm your client, what is my incentive to introduce a friend to you? I need to get to a point where I feel like I'm so aligned with your value and their unmet need, I'm doing my friend a disservice by not introducing them. That's where I need to get to be. So that's, you boil it down, I mean, that's Maslow, that's belonging. The Cherry Coke gives me a sense of belonging. I'm in good hands. They don't just care about me, they care about what I care about. That's important to me. It's a little thing, but it makes a very powerful statement. The other thing I'll say, and this goes to AI, I'll just bookend it, Terry. I said to an advisor the other day, because we were talking about AI, that's the hot dot.
Sure.
And I said, I think you're missing the point. You've got to focus on what AI can't do. AI will liberate you to do the things that AI can't do. AI will not hand the Cherry Coke. It will not have a meaningful human interaction, the high touch interaction where I'm interested in you. AI can make me interesting based on my client experience and, my command of technology, but being interested in you and making a statement with an action that I am legitimately interested in you, that's the sweet spot.
You
And
hit the
again,
nail on the head there, Duncan. It's a motivator on street level.
yeah.
The knee-jerk reaction. Why would they blurt out your name to somebody else? Yes, your core suite of services and doing that well. But on the proactive side, just bragging about you and becoming top of mind, that is the Diet Cherry Coke stuff of the world. Those are the motivators to make people want to blurt out your name and sort of frog march you down to the advisor's office and say, you guys need to talk, right? It's
Well, and I'll go back to another Charlie Munger quote. He said, and then I'll paraphrase, but he said, the big money is not in the buying and selling, it's in the waiting. And I'm saying that because a big part of referability and playing the long game is the understanding of cause and effect. This is not going to move the needle tomorrow for all intents and purposes. It's being referable is the foundation that creates the wellspring, whatever you want to call it. Then it coincides with the stage of readiness. You don't know when your AA client, who's never made an introduction before, is going to be in a referable moment where a friend is going to give them position or permission rather to actually make the introduction. But all these little investments in bedside manner and client experience, little touches, propel you to earning the right to be introduced. So I do want to get into this around the nuts and bolts of how to unlock and convert a AA to a AAA.
It's coming. It's coming. But I just really want to make, not too big a point, but actually I do want to make a bigger point on the service stuff because it's super important. And obviously just one thing that anybody can do today after listening to this podcast is relationship calls. And this is a pure relationship play. Call it a social call if you want, where Duncan's my AA client, and I'm starting this initiative to unlock the mystery of the AA. And I call Duncan, and I say, Duncan, it's Terry. To be clear, it's not a business call, but I was thinking about you this morning. I know you went to see Dwight Yoakam last night. How was it? Do you have 10 minutes? Now, I've identified why I'm calling, so I'm not wasting Duncan's precious time. He can opt in or opt out, so that's very professional. But at the end of the day, when I'm talking about this kind of thing to people, they say, well, we have these conversations all the time, Terry, with clients. We hardly ever talk about business. And I say, yes, but do you ever reach out and do just a pure social play where there's no hybrid of business and pleasure? And they think about it and they say, well, no, I guess I don't. It's usually a mix of both, even though it's very light on the business. Try it without the business, and what happens at the end of the call, it's very disarming. It's like, well, that's the only reason you called, to see how I like the Dwight Yoakam concert? And I said, yeah, I've been thinking about you all morning. I'm dying. Did he play such and such and all that other kind of stuff? And things start to wrap up, and it's like the message is that the advisor just took time out from his or her busy day to reach out and take a genuine interest in people that had nothing to do with money. And don't ever stop those hybrid calls. They're fine. But at the end of the day, when somebody has a pleasant conversation about Dwight Yoakam or golf or whatever, and then we go to their account, well, yeah, we had a nice social chat, but the real reason the call happened was because of business. And just try one of those a quarter, just once a quarter, if it fits, with your AAAs and AAs, and watch how delighted they are to hear from you. Now, as much as they say don't bring up money, there's lots of times in the rest of the years for that. I have clients all the time saying, Terry, I swear to you, I'm not bringing up money. I'm doing the calls, I'm doing the social calls. My clients keep bringing up money. Oh, it's interesting that you call because I just, unlocked blankety blank and blank, and they're apologizing to me for having these big scores doing social calls. And it's like, you don't need to apologize for me to anything. That's exactly what happens. Duncan, as you used to say, good things happen when you call your clients. So this is nothing new. But common sense isn't common practice. A lot of people don't do this stuff. The majority don't do the pure social play. They don't remember that the little things are big things. They get faked out about new technology. And I encourage you, everybody, to ratchet up the service, the little things are the big things type service, for at least the AAs if you want to unlock that vein of gold that's just sitting there waiting for you to become waiting for you to take this AA and turn them into a little motivated person on the street that wants to talk about you.
Well, and to your point, bad things happen when you don't call your clients.
Yeah, for sure.
The number one reason why there is a defection is lack of meaningful, impactful, authentic interaction. Meaningful, of course, is scheduled, predictive, and then the authentic part is just being interested in the other and waiting, not expecting, detaching from any expectation. So you don't come off as looking coin operated like the hunter-gatherer. It's not a tactic. It's just, I am legitimately interested in your recent experience. What's interesting is, and I know you've had this happen as well, is when I say to an advisor, do the call rotation based on form, start with the 20% of the clients who generate 80% of your business. A lot of advisors subconsciously neglect their most deserving clients because those clients are so good, they're the least demanding. We take them for granted because we're over here with the squeaky wheel. But right in between that is that movable middle. So I say to the advisor, after you've got into the habit and ritual of the scheduled call rotation with your 20%, your AAAs and your best clients, make sure you're not missing out on those AAs. These are clients that are ascending. They're a joy to work with, but they haven't made the introduction yet. So again,
in summation, one of the big things we see is your service does not have enough pop. I see it all the time, and it's easy enough to fix, right? Again, it's way easier to fix than going out and finding somebody brand new and starting the whole AA conversion again. So just if we can just ease into the other really significant, one of the most significant reasons, Duncan, that a AA has not referred to yet, the mystery of the AA, is the lack of an introduction process, a cohesive, professional way, a process, if you will, that comes from a place of stewardship, that when you talk about introductions with your AA or AAA, the end result is they say thank you as you articulate your process. That's when you know you're doing it right. And here's the neat thing about the introduction process as we teach it. People really do talk about money all the time. The way advisors talk about money, I find, Duncan, is not how normal people, lay people, talk about money. Lay people and your clients talk about typically what money can do for them. We talk about critical financial events. Jim's getting retired a few years earlier than we thought. We have a lot of questions, things like that. We wonder if we're going to have enough money to retire at 55. We wonder if we're going to be able to travel like we want to. These are the way, but advisors tend to get a little technical on that kind of stuff. That being said, the introduction process that we teach really is a matter-of-fact, articulated process. We deliver once or twice, at a review meeting, right on the agenda, near the top, not at the bottom, where nobody's really paying attention at that point. It can say our value-added services. That can be one of the value-added services. It can say our introduction process. If you only have one value-added service and it's that, fair enough. Our introduction process works, and we have a couple of lead-ins in our program, Duncan, for the introduction process, and one is for a brand new client. Yeah, you can do it with a brand new AA. You can say, hey, listen, Duncan, now that we're going to be working together, I'm just going to quickly share my introduction process with you. Oh, okay. And then you share it with them. How cool is that? As I say to people, how theoretically, how soon could somebody run in a brand new client? How soon could that person run into somebody that needs your kind of help? I don't know. It could happen the same day. It's like, exactly. It could be in the parking lot. So we make sure we share our introduction process as soon as we finish onboarding that person. But as per today's conversation, even if we worked with a client for 15 years, even if we had horrible attempts at referral techniques and approaches, needy, I get paid in 3 ways nonsense over the years, you can still erase all that and start fresh with an existing client lead in to the very same script, which says, Duncan, there's something new on the agenda today. It's our introduction process. And I'll explain what that is. From time to time, I'm asked by a good client such as yourself if I'm available to meet with somebody that's important to them. Things we see quite often are, somebody is really nervous about extended turbulence in the markets. We've seen a lot of that lately, haven't we? Sometimes somebody's going to go through a critical financial event and there's lots of uncertainty about how to proceed. We see that one quite a bit too. Sometimes, Duncan, people are just disenchanted. They become disenchanted with their current advisor. We see that sometimes as well. Regardless of the reason, Duncan, if that person's important to you, they're important to us, we will make the time to meet with them. And you know what? There's no guarantee that it's going to be a good fit for either of us. I don't want you to worry about that. If the person's important to you, we'll meet with them. We'll do our very best to get them off the help they need. And listen, if it turns out not to be a good fit or that we can't help them, we'll do everything we can to point them in a direction that is beneficial to them. So like I say, Duncan, the best way to handle that situation is to let me know about when that happens. We can reach out to your friend or family member and let them know about our fit process when we meet together with somebody for the first time. Or like a lot of my clients these days, you can send us an email, just CC your friend and say, here's each other's contact information. You guys should chat with each other. That's honestly how we get most of our introductions these days. So that's basically it, Duncan. I just wanted to share that with you today. Did you have any questions? And you'll notice in my little script there, that's the only question I ask, is do you have any questions at the end? And trust me when I say, if you do it like that and your intent is to be there for your clients and for the people that are important to your clients, should that ever be required, every time somebody will say thank you. Because quite frankly, I think it's a pretty fine offer to say, in so many words, the world stops when you take me up on this, and that is the promise, right?
Excellent. So let's break that sequence down. Start with being referable. Do you deserve referrals based on the level of service you're providing? Both reactive, needs-based, and predictive, scheduled best practices. That makes you referable, number one. Number two, getting closer to money in motion and critical life events, future pacing, using the agenda, showing the relationship where it's going. Next, masterfully, you use social proof. We're seeing this happen. Many of our clients are asking about. Okay, remember, it's not what you say, it's what they hear. If they're hearing this is happening, it's almost like permission. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I can relate to that. Social proof, absolutely key. The positioning, not pitching it, positioning it as a service you're providing. That value-added service. And then just bringing it up as an agenda item. We're seeing, based on what's going on in the world, turbulence in the marketplace, uncertainty, noise. One of the most fulfilling value-added services we provide is to be a sounding board. And this is where you got very, very detailed, framing your positioning in why, who, and how. If a client responds when you say, are there any questions? And they do, in fact, say, well, what's your minimum? You have permission to talk about who you're suited for.
I love that. I tell clients I love when clients ask you that, because I wouldn't lead with that. If they ask you, fair game.
Absolutely. So why do you do it? Who do you do it for? how to actually make an introduction. If you can demystify those three things in a conversation and they do opt in, like the why is your fulfillment, the personal fulfillment. It's the most fulfilling thing I do is meeting with somebody, helping them tune out the noise, make informed decisions. If they're important to you, they're important to us. No expectation it needs to go any further than that. That's the why with a bridge to the who. If a client says, okay, I didn't realize you did that, but what's your minimum? I mean, that's giving you permission to really distinguish yourself around stewardship. And you can say, well, I get that question a lot, but we don't really think that way. It's not about necessarily just the alignment of the needs and the assets. Is it a good fit? Attitudinally, you can start to expand on those qualities. Remove the mystery for the world. Tell your clients, tell your strategic partners, not who you're looking for, who you're suited for. That professional scarcity ensures that the quality of the introduction goes up with the quantity. And then how. Explain how to make an introduction. First step, make an introduction with an email, CC. Just call me, make an introduction, tell me about your conversation. We'll take it from there. Again, it sounds so simple, but I see advisors who kill this in complexity.
You know what's really powerful, Duncan, when somebody does say, do you have a minimum, and handles it exactly like you just were educating there, which is exactly the way you should handle it. Well, not to oversimplify. And by the way, you taught me this a long time ago, not a hard and fast rule. And as you accurately and very pinpoint describe who you can best help in this business, not who you're looking for, you can say, not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes there's other circumstances, but more often than not these days, Duncan, we're working with goals-based clients, investable assets of $1 million and upwards. Again, not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes there's other circumstances there. People that have a great attitude and want to have a lifetime relationship based on trust with us. These are the things that get up. And then when you do your little description, whatever it is, you say, "But I don't want you to worry about any of that."
I love that.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Listen, we'll meet with anybody. And so it's like you described it very accurately who your ideal, and then you give them the executive washroom key and says, don't worry about that.
So good. I think you, a long time ago, gave me this little chestnut where when a client says, so you're telling me that if I refer someone to you with a lot of money, but they're a jerk, you're not going to accept them as a client? And the advisor's like, well, how much are we talking? I'm pretty sure that was you back 10 or 12 years ago. I've used that before. It is so funny. Because again, to your point about hard and fast rules, the key is just be real, be authentic. The world is craving authenticity and stewardship and positioning, but also the clarity of the frame. Tell them why, tell them who, tell them how, and follow their lead. Read the room. If they're showing legitimate interest, because in their inside voice, they could be thinking about their 27-year-old son who's getting some traction and, might be drifting off track a little bit, or the sister who just sold her business, or whatever the case may be. The persuasive impact of a client, they'll endorse you. They'll sing your praises, platitudes, pleasantries, all of that, all of which will go to a friend's head to die. The conviction and persuasive impact of an advocate that you have effectively coached through the why, the who, and the how, with delayed gratification, no expectation. Their ability, and I know you see this, Terry, I love when an advisor gets an introduction, calls up the goose that laid the golden egg, and just says, thank you. Thank you for introducing your friend to me. Great guy. I can tell why you're such great friends. I just have to ask, what did you say? Like, what happened that prompted this conversation? when the advocate starts mirroring the advisor's value back on them and says things, well, yeah, I just told my buddy that I've been with you for 12 years. I've had other advisors. It's not even close. I've never felt so good and on track and clear. And I just explained your process. To hear somebody get granular, their persuasive impact, that's advocacy. And of course, when it comes to conversion, there is no better client who will become an advocate than somebody who's been introduced to you, because they've seen it, they've experienced it. They're going to be a high quality relationship because they're predisposed. They've seen how you conduct yourself. Your ability to position with the agenda item and the why, who, how, you'll fast track a new advocate just because of that sort of genealogy, where it came from.
I love it. What did you say about me? I love that. In my head, I was just going, no, I told him you had Diet Cherry Coke and lots of it. Okay.
Chilled to perfection.
That's right. I want to wrap up on maybe the biggest of the three main mysteries of the AA. Again, why your best client attitudinally and revenue-wise doesn't refer. And that is, again, it's a motivator. There's not really a motivator to refer that person into it based on the lack of awareness of the onboarding process in today's time. Bear with me here for a second.
Okay.
If you think about all the different points in your storied career, the first client you ever took on is still on the books, and then the client 5 years later, 10 years later, all these people are sort of frozen in time based on the evolution of where you were in your career, and arguably they all have different experiences. And you brought them all on, and you attracted them all as clients, and good for you. But they all have sort of very different experiences for one or another. And I don't know about you, but most of my clients aren't particularly proud of how they first bought clients on 20 years ago. I mean, they got it done. You know what? There's a really great quote in Fiddler on the Roof, the 1971 movie, directed by Norman Jewison. I could watch it once a year, no problem. But the opening monologue where Tevye, the farmer, is talking to God just before "If I Were a Rich Man," he's saying, God made. He's talking to God. He's like, God made many poor people, many, many poor people, and he goes, and I realize there's no shame in being poor, but he says, but it's no great honor either. And that to me is like the early onboarding attempts in advisor and career. No shame. You got the client, right? But I don't think anybody's out there bragging about it. So you have an opportunity to go fix that and bring them up to today's time. And let's hope you really souped up your onboarding process. And if you didn't, you sort of have to take a little pit stop and work on that a bit. But oh my gosh, is that ever worth it? Because your new and improved onboarding process generates referrals right away from people that are so excited about where they found themselves as they referred out. Duncan, that quote about somebody has to get fired in order for you to get hired, it's got to be markedly different. And they have to feel like, okay, this is what I've been waiting for. And if your onboarding process currently doesn't do that, well, you got to go back to the drawing board and work on that in every nook and cranny of that so people get that feeling. So you kind of have to start there if it's not particularly memorable right now, but it'll serve you the rest of your career for new clients being onboarded. But for the point of today's discussion, we can also go back to existing clients and say, listen, I want to share some enhancements when we get together next, our next review meeting, or strategy meeting, and largely around our process, how we onboard people now. And I'm really looking forward to sharing these with you. We're really quite excited about it. As always, Duncan, we're going to get a great update on your goals and what you've been doing the last little while. But I just wanted to give you the heads up there. Oh, and listen, as part of that, one of the things we've been working on behind the scenes here is we just developed an introductory kit. And this is something we send out now when we're going to be meeting with somebody for the first time. So I'm going to send you one of those as well too, because it's an important part of what we've been working on. Does that sound all right? Now, you're sitting there going, well, why the heck does my client have to sit there and listen to me and all this stuff I've been doing behind the scenes about how I onboard new clients? This is the best part. It's completely logical. If now listen, they may have heard the introduction process as per number 2 reason, the AA, and all your AA and AAA clients might be hearing the introduction process now, and what they might be introducing is now completely different from what they went through. That is a professional discourtesy, and it may end up surprising them when the person shows up and says, yeah, it's great, they got this and this and this, and you're like, what? I didn't get any of that. What am I, chopped liver? So as a professional courtesy, you've got to paint a picture for the way it is now to your existing AAAs and AAs so they can confidently understand what will happen. It really is a professional courtesy, but at the same time, you rejuvenate these relationships because they're going to get all the new bells and whistles too, including the personal financial organizer you developed, including the welcome kit, the welcome process, and a welcome gift. Even though they've been clients for 19 years, you want them to experience it just as if they were a brand new client. And this is the whole beauty of this, is they literally walk in the shoes of what it's like to be onboarded in the month of June 2026. Sorry, is this an evergreen show? Because I just dated it. And now they have a motivator. It's just like, well, I can see if I send Bob over there. I know I'm just how can I help but look great at the end of the day? And there's that enlightened self-interest that's really all about referability, isn't it? I mean, yeah, we want to help Bob or a friend, but not at the expense of looking bad. In fact, I'd rather look good. So if we can reintroduce that motivator, now people are excited to refer because they're going to look great when that person comes back and talks to them. So this is a big part of our program. And yeah, it's a bit of work, but you know what? It's less work than going out and finding a whole bunch of new people, I'll tell you that.
Every client has a story. Their family, their goals, their dreams, the people they trust, the people they love, and the legacy they want to leave behind. Toolkit 2.0 helps you see the complete picture, featuring a beautifully redesigned experience with relationship intelligence at its core, AI that helps you move faster, and collaboration built for modern advisory teams. Because the software you use every day should be as intentional as the advice you give. We built Toolkit for advisors who care about their craft and are willing to go the distance. Explore it at toolkitcrm.com.
No question about it. It's funny, I had a conversation not long ago with an advisor who said, yeah, this is all amazing, but are my clients going to go, finally you're getting your act together here? And no, you're allowed to evolve. It reflects well on you that you're not mailing it in. You're thinking in terms of plateau avoidance, and the clay is soft. You just keep climbing, and it's good.
So funny that the questions that people get when they hear a strategy. And another one I hear every now and again is, aren't my clients going to ask when they start getting great service all of a sudden? It's like, oh, I'm sure they're going to be delighted. Not suspicious.
Hey, whatever prompts the curiosity.
Yeah.
The professional, first of all, the professional contrast around, hired, fired, that's so profound, and that's engineered. So is professional scarcity. Like when you say they don't need to become a client.
Yep.
That's professional scarcity. When you remove the mystery and you narrowcast around who you're suited for, that's professional scarcity. And you brought up a point in an earlier conversation that this ports beautifully, not just with clients converting to advocates, but also to strategic partners, engaging strategic partners into the process, expanding your thinking beyond this sort of COI circle of influence, like actually getting them to understand their positioning, the role they can play. And I'll tell you, I had an advisor a while back, Terry. I said to him, prove me wrong. You've got 27 strategic partners between CPAs, attorneys, mortgage brokers, all sorts of people with persuasive impact and influence in your marketplace. I said, Go and reintroduce yourself, show them your process, show them your fit process, your onboarding process, and then toward the end, have a bullet on the agenda that just says our value-added services, point to it, and then ask them this question. In the spirit of the law of reciprocity, just say to the accountant, hey, just so you know, I meet with a lot of people, and I see opportunities where I can make an introduction. If I think that there might be a good fit between somebody I talk to and your services, how would you like me to introduce you and describe you? What would you like me to say? I said, prove me wrong. Just ask all 27 that positioning, that question, and watch what happens. First of all, they'll stumble because they're kind of shocked. They're on the spot. Then they'll say, well, I think, you can probably say, I've been with this firm for, 18 years, and I really enjoy what I do. I work with business owners. And of course, at the end of it, they will say, well, how should I describe you? You have their permission to why, who, and how. It's such a powerful dynamic. But didn't you tell me that strategic partners can outproduce client advocates by
in a recent benchmarking report I read, strategic partners were 3-1 for introductions over existing clients, and I always kind of sort of intuitively sense that, but just to see it in print there, I was like, wow, like I ever needed a reason to have my clients really start working on that pillar, one of the main pillars to new business, obviously. But I'm so glad, Duncan, you mentioned strategic partners, because all this revamp we're doing on our onboarding process, and we're going to get good at how to teach it to our existing clients. Well, we're not done yet, because now we can go do this to strategic partners as well, too. Why doesn't a strategic partner refer? It's the same thing. Maybe it's just a lack of a motivator. Maybe they think, in the case of CPAs, that all advisors are a bunch of salespeople. And by the way, that reputation is well-deserved in a lot of cases. Maybe they'll just say something like, well, I'll never send a referral to an advisor just because I don't want to look bad. What if we could show them we have a dedicated fit process at a high level? We can show them the flow of how it goes. We can let them know that we don't make any decisions at that meeting. We can talk about our ideal client and that we're really proud of the process we've created. It's not for everybody. It's always about how small we could get, not how big we could get. And just all this sort of out of sense, why wouldn't I send somebody into this world? So we can take that sort of Swiss knife, if you will, and then share that exact same thing to double your efforts with strategic partners and give them a reason to refer you. Because like the existing AA, the mystery of the AA, strategic partners at the end of the day want to look good too. After their introduction, they want that person to come back and say, that was great, thank you so much. Isn't that what we all want, right?
Well, here's a little gem from our history together. If I'm an accountant, it's easy for me to refer someone to you. The problem is, it's easier not to.
Yeah,
right?
Easier not to.
Easier not to. If I don't understand how it's going to reflect on me, how it's going to impact my client, I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to put myself out there. You got to remember, many of your strategic partners are not entrepreneurial. They're technicians in many respects with incredible core competency, but they're not thinking in terms of reciprocity, networking, and things like that. Oh, and by the way, I've got to mention this. We've gone deep into AI and its impact on, consistency and productivity, powerful. The other AI, alternative investments, which is massive, the impact. What I'm finding is that is a great conversation starter to go for an advisor to meet with a strategic partner with an agenda, talking about trends and trajectory. This is what's emerging in the marketplace. This is what high net worth clients are asking about, explaining where alternatives fit in the asset allocation models today, and then rejuvenating that relationship and then having that bullet onto the agenda, our value-added services. Nice. And basically just simply saying, because of the complexity and the changing landscape, the shift is dramatic. A value-added service that we're providing to our long-term relationships is to be a sounding board. They don't need to become a client. If they're important to you, they're important to us. I just want to let you know that. Using the alternative investments as the bridge to that conversation is incredibly powerful. Not to oversimplify that either.
Duncan, I'm so glad you brought that up because I saw has that been released? Your AI brought your.
The second AI, it's right around the corner.
Okay, because I sat in on that. I guess did an
right.
advanced viewing, and let me tell you, it's great. But anyway, I was talking. I just started to field test some of what I heard on your podcast, which was great. And I was asking my client about alternative investments and things like that. Now, to be clear, this guy is about as good as it gets as an advisor. And he makes it his business to know everything about everything when it comes to alternative investments and everything else. He's the most referred client I've ever worked with in my life. It's not even close. Anyway, so what happens right after I asked him this, Duncan? He goes, "It's funny you asked me that, Terry, because I was golfing this morning, and there's this guy, one of my buddies. He's more of a buddy than a prospective client, but I know he's got about 20, 30 million, he told me once. Anyway, this guy comes up to me and he says, hey, listen, do you know about such and such an investment? One of my buddies was telling me about it." And my client 100% knew what it was. And he said, yeah. He goes, you have to understand, we don't ever try to attract new clients with products or strategies like that. But yeah, I'm very well versed on that. And that actually is an interesting one. But we sort of look at things like that as a value add for our existing clients. And we're happy to give them first crack at some of these things when they come due. So the guy was just like eyes as big as saucers. And he goes, well, are you taking on any new clients? I swear to God, I just heard the story right after your podcast. Isn't that amazing?
Unreal. Okay, so let's close the loop here for a second. One last key point, because, we have this mindset where we say to that type of advisor, like, grow down, zoom out, level up. Like, level up your role and responsibility. Zoom out, like just detach. I don't know about you, Terry. I have some of my best ideas within 90 seconds of walking into a shower. And it occurred to me, captive, no distractions, and to apply this, the best advisors are serious students who work on their business, but they schedule time to work on the business and on themselves.
100%.
They don't wait for the time to appear. They schedule it. They're serious students. You've got to be a serious student about AI and the other AI and how you're perceived and how you're described. The best way to do that is detach from the noise, turn off the phone, and put your head down and just imagine, okay, how can I refine? How can I optimize? What can I read? Who can I talk to? This is one of the things that separates the best from the rest.
What's interesting about AI, and of course this happens in all kinds of industries. I'm thinking of automotive dealerships. There used to be like hundreds when they first started, and of course that all boiled down to the big three back in the day. And what could they do at that point? Service. So they got into all the service centers and served them and all that kind of stuff, and that's how they got to the next level again. So I see that maybe coming with AI as well too. When the same tools are available to absolutely everybody, how are people going to differentiate themselves? It's going to go back to things like the little things are the big things and cherry coke and all this way we can just really make ourselves notice by just good old fashioned service, which by the way is still really important to people. AI hasn't replaced any of the things that still really matter to people. And I know, Grandpa, my time's almost running out. You might be thinking to yourself here, but I really believe that.
Meanwhile, a lot of people are looking at AI where I can automate and scale service. And what ends up happening is you get into this, you paint yourself into this corner where now you're perceived as, oh, we're experiencing a higher than expected call volume. And your call is very important to us. Well, evidently it's not. I mean, AI plays such an incredible role, but just again, it liberates you to do the cherry coke, like the high touch. That is what people are craving. Remember the lyric in "It Can't Be Nashville Every Night." We are what we lack. What is lacking in the world right now? It's the high touch. It's the human interaction. It's the bedside manner. For the 20%, for the AAAs, for the AAs, go deeper there. They're craving it. You will get introduced to people pretty much like themselves.
I want to just go out on a quote here. Wee Willie Keeler, major leaguer from the 30s, home run king. And I think about that when everybody just has the same tools available to them, and it's hard to differentiate yourself. Well, and when that happens, Wee Willie Keeler, and the quote is, by the way, some reporter said, "Hey, Willie, how do you hit so many home runs?" This is back in the 30s. And he said, "Well, I hit them where they ain't," in his 1930s colloquial way. And I always thought that was charming. And I always think about things like that. Hit them where they ain't, especially when everybody's going a certain way. Remember what's really important and go there and hit them where they ain't,
All these years, I thought that was Yogi Berra, but thanks for clearing that up for me.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, differentiate. I mean, we hear it so often. I think we get numb to the concept, but it's timeless and it's timely. So anyway, Terry, awesome job.
That was fun.
Somebody wants to check in with you. What's the best way for somebody to find you, just to say hi?
Yeah, just call the Pareto main line and say you saw this Terry guy, and other than his Canadian accent, I found him quite charming and erudite, and we'll go from there.
I can confirm you're very charming.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, and we'll have you back.
Thanks for making some time for me, Duncan. It was a lot of fun.
As always, yeah, for sure.
Take care.
Likewise.
Thank you for listening to Always On with Duncan MacPherson, where our objective is to enable professionals to always be working on their business and on themselves. Want to learn more about Duncan and his team? Visit ParetoSystems.com. Don't forget to click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the hosts and/or guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Pareto Systems. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.